Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Hello guys, welcome back to my video. And today I would like to present a procedure article by Catherine Wong, Collapse of Narrative, a study of narrative distinct in the conventional narrative in Kazuo Ishiguro's work. Before we jumping into the presentation or the discussion section, I'd like to introduce myself. I'm Riszha Nurlayli from Discourse Analysis 2018 B class. So yeah, let's move to the table of contents. Today, the first section, it will be introduction. The second section, it will be the goals of this article. And the third section, it will be the analysis of this article. The last section or the fourth section it will be the conclusion. So this is the first section. This paper is a prelude to another forthcoming paper which applies H.P. Grace's conversation theory to the study of the narrative in the post-colonial reading of Kazuo Ishiguro in finding out the source of unreliability of the narrator. So we move to the second section, the goals of this article. The primary goal of this essay is to examine the role of the narrator within the narrative discourse and his or her position in the story discourse through a stylistic analysis of Ishiguro's linguistic choice in shaping his narrator and characters. And then the ultimate goal of this paper is to uncover the separation yet confusion between self-language and voice in narrative, which contributes to the diminishing distance between the two levels of discourse and subsequently to the collapse of narrative in the conventional narrative in Ishiguro's novel. This paper sets off to examine this narrative distance through the analysis of the model used in the narrative in relation to narrator positioning and layering of the narrative time. So we are going to the analysis section. A few of Hills belong to the genre of written fictional narrative discourse in which intonation and gesture play very little role in supporting an actual vocalization, channeling of messages, or functioning as an instrument of focusing attention in the viewing frame of the audience or the readers. Especially lexical choice and grammatical construction do from a substantial linguistic pattern. This linguistic pattern creates a viewing frame which guides and directs both the expectation and understanding of the readers. And in this case, the large volume of modality, both in the forms of modal verb and other grammatical construction of mood used in the narrative definitely has formed an attention framing which shapes and influences the audience's focus and perception of events. In Langaker's discussion, the attention focus framed by the linguistic patterns of the narrator can be prospective or retrospective, but in the case of Etsuko's narration, though there is always the discuss of retrospection with Etsuko's reviewing her life and experience, the focus frame of the narrative, which is a mood-oriented one, is highly prospective. All modes are working towards the same goal of disengaging Etsuko's involvement in and responsible for the narrated events. While the use of epistemic use of models such as would is prominent in many episodes of the narrative, the use of hedges and harmonic modal expression are very common throughout the whole conventional narrative discourse. Modal constructions such as "it seemed" and "now I realize" are used frequently to denote the reliability of narrative. With the former, the narrator shifts to the focus frame to the past to share her audience her own uncertainty and lack of understanding in the situation. This article have categorized the mood change into 8 main types. There are necessity, direct evidence, perception, indirect evidence, proposition, supposition, imagination, and possibility. And as shown in Figure 4 and Figure 5, the high amount of models or model constructions concentrated mainly in the category of indirect evidence. Whether the actual content in the story discourse is really just a shared piece of opinion is just a secondary concern in this paper. But through this vocalization channel, the narrator is actually undercutting the credibility of the content and guiding her audience to disbelieve the objectivity and reliability of her story. This is the figure 4 and figure 5 that already mentioned in the previous slide. You can see. So another observation that this article helped me in this analysis is that the vocal activity of narrator is highly correlating with the use of first-person pronoun in the narrative. In other words, the mood and the voice of the narrator shape the frame of expectation through the interplay between her positing various time, space as well as the appearances of her narrator self in the story discourse. The above-mentioned analysis has proved the inseparable relationship between the narrator's mediation of the mood of the narrative and the audience's perception of the story. And in this case of Etsuko's convention in A Pale View of Hills, the conscious effort of Etsuko's manipulation of the focus and viewing frame of her narrative and interference of story discourse result in diminishing of the distance between narrative space and story space. And that is the collapse of narrative. So yeah, this is the conclusion section of the article. The article concludes the strength of the narrative of Ishiguro resides in the unsettlement of the narrative and the unresolved tension. The examination of the role of the language, the fluidity of language is in terms of the passage of information provide us with a new answer to the old paradigm of the study of the conventional narrative. Through the character narrator Atsuko, Ishiguro has created a textual space where he can exercise his subjectivity at the marginality of story and narrative, focus and shared knowledge, mood and perception. The power of transmission of language is in both the form of infiltration and diffusion. So yeah, that's all that I can say from this article. If you have anything to ask, let me know in the comment section below. So I hope you are always healthy and keep safe, and see you on my next video. Thank you.